Thank you very much and good morning. I'd like to show a few highlights of our work in Austria. I'd like to shortly introduce the Austrian Green Finance Agenda. In Austria, we have advocated for the European development, but also thought what we can do in Austria. In Austria, there is an investment need. We have physical climate risks and much more risks. We have a big and successful finance market, and therefore, together with the finance ministry, with the finance sector and civil society, we wanted to take action. Thank you for Sean for mentioning Austria is a small country, but in the competitive race for the best ideas, it's still a good idea lab, and maybe we can export one or the other small idea. What is our objective behind green finance? It's not only about knowing the contribution green finance can have. We want to reach our climate goals, and therefore we need additional investments. Tomorrow we have a talk of the Environment Agency on the investment needs. I just shortly want to present an overview of the numbers, of the figures. 100 to 180 million additional investments are needed in Austria to reach climate goals. And based on a study from the European Environment Agency, about 55% of the investment volume that is required could be financed by the private sector. We know that about 40% of projects that work on climate emissions in the private sector, and it's 20% in the public sector. So we can see that green finance is already bankable. It's not only about the public sector, but also about the private sector. We are in the middle of the implementation phase of our project. Some measures have already been completed, and we're on a good path. I'd like to present 3 highlights. The first one is a preview to the current climate analysis that we conduct, the Green Finance Alliance in Austria. What is it, and what is the current development, and what is the current development with regarding to the green bond? Why do we analyze the Austrian financial market? Austria used to be the first country that did a climate analysis. We took a look at what is the CO2 emission intensity on the financial market in Austria, and we wanted to regularly evaluate progress, potential, and also to learn with the evaluation methods, and to use the new data that were available through the new reporting system. And therefore, last year we decided to conduct an analysis together with the value group and the Environment Agency. And tomorrow you have the opportunity to see some of these results in detail and to discuss them. Just a few words on this. We have 3 modules. The first one is about emissions in funds. The second module is about credit institutions, and it's about climate strategies of those credit institutions and their transition plans. And then we took a look at loans and securities on a macro level. To sum up, in the credit institutions, we can see that the first pathways have been set. All of them have a climate strategy. This is huge progress. We can see challenges, especially when it's about setting goals for the portfolios. And we can see a discrepancy between the institutions or among the constitutions, some already have very concrete goals to exit carbon emitting sources. And we also took a look at the emissions that are funded by the funds. And here we can see energy is still very strong, and you can see the details tomorrow. In the funds or bonds, we can compare 2020 with 2020, where we already had made a first analysis, and here we can see a reduction of the actual emissions and also of the intensities. Sustainable funds are more popular or have a better result. So in one category, there's even a little increase. Every year we take a look at the taxonomy figures. At the moment, this is still desk research. And as from next year, we should have the European access point where we have free access to the data and we can use it in a much more effective way. We can see from 2022 to 2023 an interesting increase in conformity, in return on investment, and in the operative handling. So we can see it has been easier to be transparent with data, and we can see a progress. Austria is in a very good spot compared with other European countries, especially with the CAPEX taxonomy compliance. Companies that we compared in their areas have better market performance if they have a better taxonomy or if they comply with the taxonomy. Of course, we have conducted a study to take a look at the criteria of the do no significant harm criteria in Austria, and the Environment Agency will conduct this study to see what are the challenges with these criteria and what are the conclusions we can draw for our national agenda, but also for the European agenda. The Austrian Green Finance Alliance is unique and something we can export more proactively, in my opinion. The Alliance is a voluntary initiative of finance institutions, insurances, pension funds, etc. At the moment we have 11 members, and that is 13 to 14% of the Austrian finance market, which is represented. This alliance is unique because the criteria for participation are based on research. So the institutions commit on a full climate neutrality until 2050. And we are accompanied by the expertise of the Environment Agency. This alliance has existed for the last 3 years, and we can see that the first phase has been successfully concluded. This is the development of the climate strategies, the goals that we set for the different portfolios, and to implement the processes and governance in the companies. From this first phase, we now move into the implementation phase. We are just in the discussion phase of how we can conduct the implementation, and I hope that we can present this publicly still this year. I can tell you already that by learning about how we can implement climate strategies in companies, we gain a lot of knowledge, especially on the methodology. And that is something we want to reinforce in Austria, but also on a European and international level. The last highlight is the Austrian Green Bond. Sean Kidney has mentioned it. In the first 2 years, we have financed more than 10 billion euros in climate and environmental expenditures with the Austrian financing agency, the finance ministry, and also us. And this year, we also have a green bond, which is currently being elaborated. The quality of data, for example, the transparency that we can offer, can be increased every year, as for example with the performance and impact indicators from almost 80% to almost 100% last year. And with the green bond, we want to be pioneers. That's one of the big assets and positive points of this bond. And therefore, we are discussing transparency and the taxonomy very intensively. How can we be transparent and comply with all the taxonomy regulations to set a good example for other colleagues in other institutions? That was it from my end. Thank you very much for your attention. I know we are now moving on to the discussion and to the panel. I wish you a wonderful day and a lot of fruitful and insightful discussions. Thank you from my side.